Welcome, Mr. Chastanet.
Thank
One more
my
time.
boss, boss. Thank you so much. You the one playing all that country and western there?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Can give us the music back, Go again,
There you go.
Hi, I would like to say a pleasant good evening to our viewers, the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Allen Chastanet. Thank you for coming. I would like to say thank you for taking time off your busy schedule to have this open discourse with us here tonight. We, the Watch Radio family and St. Lucians by extension, welcome you to New York City. Let me also wish you
To
a
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Come on.
Right. I stand corrected. Welcome you to Brooklyn.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And let me also wish you a happy belated birthday. You celebrated 57 years yesterday. I'm sorry for letting
That's
the
okay.
secret out. So, just a little background information to let you know about Watch Radio. Since we've been established, we've provided a platform to many St. Lucians and different nationalities to be able to converse and really provide a platform, really, so that they could come have a place at the end of the day where they can kick back, relax, and mingle. So this is the only St. Lucian based radio station here in Brooklyn. So we're proud to be repping 758. Without further ado, I'm going to ask you this. Since assuming the office, what would you categorize as some of your administration's biggest challenges?
Um, I, Getting everybody to stay focused. It's all good and well to be able to put a plan on paper,
Right.
but to have the patience to see it come to fruition. Because when you're doing things and you're going and you're changing things, you're not going to necessarily see immediate results.
Correct.
And so it means that you have to have confidence in what you're doing, that the results are going to come. And so it's always very, very difficult because when people start complaining and they say, oh boy, I'm not feeling the change,
Right.
this is not working for me. And almost to the extent that some people feel that a new government coming in can wave a magic wand and all of a sudden all the bad things that were happening previously that you can overcome those things in the shortest period of time. So it's just to have confidence in yourself, and that was really the most difficult thing.
Right. Usually, change is not something that people adapt to. It takes time for them to really take it all in and to see the positive side of what's going to happen. So, what would you say are some of the achievements that your administration has has gotten since assuming the office?
Well, the first thing is that we had a slogan called Five to Stay Alive.
Right.
And Five to Stay Alive came about because we saw that the previous administration had almost put the burden of the economy on the poorer people and the more vulnerable people in our society. So when you look at the increase in VAT to 15%, the reduction in the subsidies for food and for transportation for kids, when they increased the license fees for vehicles. So for a lot of younger guys who had their vehicles, regardless of whether they had work or not, they would have to pay the license fee.
Right.
So we came up with a plan called 5 to Stay Alive. And it was really 5 things that we would do right away to be able to bring some immediate relief to the more vulnerable in our society.
Okay.
So we've successfully implemented all of those things. We've reduced, we've increased the subsidy on the school feeding program. We've increased the subsidy on the bus transportation program for kids. We reduced the VAT by 2.5% because we felt that that's money that would go back into people's pockets.
Right.
We reduced the increase of the license fees for the vehicles. And just 2 weeks ago, we passed a legislation in order to eliminate the property tax for 3 years. So it means that nobody has to pay property taxes. And one of the bigger ones really was gave a waiver to everybody who owned, all the people who were unemployed, the elderly people, the people on the poor list, exempted them from having to pay their hospital fees.
Okay.
Now, they probably weren't going to pay it anyway, right?
There is a possibility.
The probability is they were not going to pay it anyway.
Okay.
But what you did is you took the stress off their back. And
Right.
when you met with a lot of the older people, and you know that they're very, very serious. They don't like owing anybody any money.
Right.
And so it was adding additional stress in their lives, knowing that they owed the money.
Okay.
And it was very, very embarrassing for them. And it was very unfair because they couldn't pay. And to some extent, some people were not going to the hospital or not going to the doctor because they were embarrassed. So that was a huge thing that we did. So probably the thing that I'm very proud about is that we made a promise and that we've delivered on that promise.
Perfect. I think healthcare is one of the biggest concerns or factors affecting St. Lucian people. And as you say, and the people who usually feel the burden are those who we term as the lower class people. So being able to give them a clean slate as it pertains to wiping out their current medical bills, I think that's a perfect thing. Now, since you mentioned the 5 to Stay Alive, so usually the citizens would go ahead and base progress on the first 100 days in office. Of course, when you come into office, you have to deal with what the last administration left. And so it takes time going through the books and putting everything together. Do you think that this is something that we should be more detailed about in terms of setting expectations when it comes to 100 days versus a year or two in terms of seeing progress?
I don't even know where this 100-day thing came from. I think that the only thing you can do in 100 days is really start setting new policies,
Okay.
and start showing a different trend. So reducing the VAT we did pretty quickly, but it took a while, and it's going to continue to take a little while to restructure the government. Labor Party was in essence in government for 20 years, because even though we had 5 years in there, we never really made any changes. I mean, we were reacting to the recession, we were reacting to the oil prices, we were reacting to Hurricane Thomas and the drought and the earthquakes.
Right.
So I mean, for 5 years, we were ourselves were fighting to stay alive, and so we never really got around to being able to change anything in government. And we've inherited a situation in which you have some people in the civil service, that even though they're not supposed to be political, act very politically.
Right.
And you have to be patient with them.
Right.
I mean, I don't have the ability to go and fire people, and
Right.
it's certainly not the government's intention to fire anybody, but certainly it is the government's intention to re-engineer and hold people more accountable. So I'm saying to you that it takes 3 years before you fully start feeling the effects of the changes in policies. Do I think that we'll see things earlier? Well, yesterday, the announcement was made that unemployment dropped again. So since we've come into government, we've reduced unemployment by 8%.
That's perfect.
That's huge.
Yes.
We are seeing that the economic growth projections of 2% or higher, we're on track for that. We have over $1.5 billion US of foreign direct investment that's committed to come to Saint Lucia over the next 2 years.
Okay.
We've been successful in securing loans for a new police headquarters, a new police station in Gros Lake, $100 million for new roads, $45 million for feeder roads to help our farmers. We'll be announcing very soon the commencement of the airport. And we're also looking to do the highway between Darren Sammy Stadium and Dennery. We're looking aggressively at Castries in terms of revitalizing Castries. We're going to be putting monies into the development and the upgrading of 8 villages. So Groselet, Ancillary, Canneries, Soufriere, Choiseul, Labrie, Micoud North, and Dennery South. Those fishing villages will be spending a significant amount of money in fixing up the sidewalks, getting road signs in. And the purpose of that is to help grow small businesses, make those fishing villages much more attractive and much more appealing, and that people who want to have small guest houses or Airbnb, that they can be more successful. So start thinking of each of those villages as if they were a hotel by themselves. And each different apartment building is really a different room category. So we're very much wanting to do things to be able to get entrepreneurs off the ground. We're being very aggressive in agriculture. So bananas are the first one. We've seen almost a tripling of the production in bananas. We're very much want to improve the fresh produce that we're doing. And in order to be able to grow the agricultural sector by a quantum leap, it's focusing on agro-processing. So if we can produce products in which we can now make into longer lasting products, and the byproducts of some of the things that we're doing, I think that that's going to go a long ways in improving the overall production of agriculture and putting more money into people's pockets, particularly in the rural area.
Thank you. In a keynote address, you spoke about the growth in context of economic development against the backdrop of the country's negative growth rate for 3 years, which is 2012, 2013, and 2014. You cited some of the basic necessities and how it impacts St. Lucia's economic development. Can you elaborate on your concerns, and please do so in a way that the average Joe can understand?
Well, it's running a country's economy is not very different than your household. So if in fact you are earning money and you come home and you pay your mortgage and you buy your groceries, right? And all your money is being spent on those things. So it means that if you have a car accident and you have to pay the deductible, so say the deductible is $1,000,
Right.
okay, where are you going to get that cash from? You have to borrow it, okay? So in the case of Saint Lucia, for the last 20 years, we've been running basically a deficit, meaning that we've been spending more money than what we've been earning. And the sad reality is we're not even spending enough money, because we're not spending enough money to maintain the schools that we have. We're not spending enough money to provide quality healthcare services. We're not spending enough money on the roads that we have in Saint Lucia. We're not spending enough money on security. Imagine when I came in as Prime Minister, there was no Coast Guard boats working. The 2 radar stations that we have were not working. The forensic lab wasn't working. We had no DPP, and the DPP's office was completely depleted. The judges don't have chambers. The magistrates don't have offices. So it's almost like somebody was literally saying, we've given up.
Right.
You know? So that in many ways was a consequence of bad fiscal management, and what was happening, the government was running out of money more and more. And when they were running out of the money, when they went to borrow money, nobody wanted to lend them the money. So, again, it's like our households, right? If in fact that we don't have any money in savings, we don't have any assets, we're struggling to pay our mortgage, or we don't even have a mortgage, we're renting, and then you're going to your friend and asking that person for money, and the person says, what are you going to use the money for? And you say, well, I'm going to use the money to pay my rent. So it's not like to say you're going to use that money to invest in something that's going to generate more money. Like I'm saying, maybe I'm going to get a better education, and then therefore I'm going to get a better job and earn some more money, and that's how I'm going to pay you back. Or, you know what, I'm going to open up a second business. So again, to the household example, if all of a sudden you want a car, you say, you know what, I'm tired of taking the bus and I want to get a car. So one of two things has to happen. You're going to have to eat less money, eat less food in order to spend less, or you're going to have to get another job. So in getting the other job now, this is what we call in economic terms productivity. So it means that you as an individual, you're working more hours and you're producing more because that's what the output is. So the question is, how can we improve productivity in Saint Lucia? Because the GDP, so when we measure the gross income of Saint Lucia, so when we take tourism and bananas and government and taxes and all these things and we combine them together, Saint Lucia's GDP is around $1.3 billion US dollars a year. And let's compare that to Barbados, 4.4 billion, or compare that to Bahamas of 10 billion. And for those people who know the Bahamas, Nassau is a big part of that GDP, but Paradise Island is almost $4 billion in GDP. Paradise Island is a dot. So it just tells you we're just not productive enough. We're not producing enough, we're not selling enough, we're not creating enough. And so therefore, we have less money to be able to pay for all the services that we need to be able to do. So we feel that Saint Lucia is not meeting its fullest utilization, meaning would be the example of maybe somebody's only working part-time, right? And so you say, okay, you know what, you can earn a lot more money if you're working full-time. And then to become more productive, if you had a better education and you got a better job, means you're going to earn more money per hour. So that's what the same thing applies in a country in terms of what are the things we can do to generate more revenue in the same number of hours of day that we currently have. And so, tourism is obviously a huge opportunity because the Caribbean is only 2% of the world tourism market. So we think that there's a huge amount of opportunity. So even if you take Jamaica as an example, almost 500,000 to 600,000 people who visit Jamaica come from the tri-state area. Saint Lucia gets 150,000 from the whole of America. So imagine if we had a better marketing campaign, we had some more hotels, I think it would be easy to convince more people to be able to come to Saint Lucia. So we have our work cut out for us. And so when I keep talking about economic growth comes by improving the overall capacity, the productivity of the country, making the country more competitive. And those are the things that we're focusing on.
Right. Piggybacking off what you said earlier as it pertains to the GDP, just so that the viewers of those persons listening get a clearer understanding as it pertains to a percentage or figure amount. When you assumed office, 8 months after you assumed office, you said that it was at 85%. 17 months into office to date, what would you say, has there been a significant increase?
There's been some increase. What we have done is we've, by reducing VAT, means that money that would have been going into the government's hands, so about $40 million, is now staying in the hands of either business people or in consumers.
Okay.
Right? And we think that when it's in the business people's hands and in the consumer's hand, they do a better job of spending that money.
Right.
And so that government was increasing the level of taxation because it was broke. And so we think that what government needs to understand is that the way that it must earn more money is by growing the economy. Because if you just keep increasing the tax rate, it becomes uncompetitive. And what happens is people find ways not to pay the tax.
Correct.
So if you have a lesser tax rate, people are more willing to pay it. And then if people have more money in their pockets and they're spending more, businesses now hire more people, bring more things in, and hopefully even the construction sector starts taking off. So we're at the beginning. So the good news is that the initial policies that we've had as a government are working. The other piece of good news is that we have major investments coming in. So we're hoping to go from 4,000 hotel rooms to 6,000 hotel rooms. We've already seen banana production go from 12,000 to 30,000 tons. Fresh produce is now on the uptake. We're seeing that our manufacturing sector, our rum and our drinks are growing. And those are all great signs. And I think that as the economy continues to grow and consumption continues to grow, it'll help. We also started a program where we allow international businesses to open up their headquarters in Saint Lucia. So we allow them to employ 10 people, whether it's solutions or people from abroad. They don't pay any personal income tax. They don't pay any corporate tax. They can bring all their equipment in duty free. But the point is now you have people living in Saint Lucia who would not have normally lived in Saint Lucia, who are going to restaurants and going in and out of the airport, who now want to rent a place. So they're bringing money now and creating consumption in the marketplace.
Correct.
All of a sudden now you can't get an apartment to rent in Rodney Bay.
Oh.
So the good news is that I think that the business people are saying, wow, okay, let me build some more apartments. So that's what these things are able to achieve.
Okay. So as we on this line of employment, one of the biggest concerns of St. Lucians is that they don't think that enough is being done, or they have not seen an increase in job opportunities, especially for the youth. Would you say that since assuming office, there has been a decrease in the number of unemployment rate?
For the youth, very small. And what we have lamented is that the education system in our mind is not preparing young people for the jobs that are out there. So, we had a situation where Royalton came in and almost 50% of the construction workers came from abroad because they were using a different technique or a different technology for construction. And so it wasn't bricks and bending steel. And we did a horrible job of retraining our young men and women to be able to suit the jobs. So we have to do a much better job. A lot of younger people now want to open up their own businesses. So the production of apps, the entertainment industry. So we're going to be converting Radio Saint Lucia, and we're going to be making it now a recording studio, and also with a video studio. And we're going to be making it part of the curriculum at Sir Arthur Lewis College, because we think that that's a huge opportunity. And when you see what Ricky T, Tedison, a lot of the other young artists are doing now, particularly in groovy soca, it's showing that we have a tremendous amount of talent. And sometimes we try to conquer the world first, So, I think becoming the best in St. Lucia, then becoming the best in the Caribbean, then making an impact in the diaspora. And once you're in the diaspora, and then internationally, once your genre of music starts taking off, and you're considered to be one of the best. So if I never knew anything about Kaiso, the first person that I would buy an album of would be Sparrow.
Okay.
Right? Because he was considered to be the best.
Right.
So, reggae, if I'm going to go and buy a reggae album, I've never heard about reggae before, whose album am I going to buy? Bob Marley. So the fact is that as we see that music form grow, remember Arrow's song Hot Hot Hot? Right. It became worldwide and opened up that kind of music to the world. So you never know when that big break is going to be able to come. The film industry, making short films. So again, the technology to make a film, to film it, your iPhone, your smartphone can do it. So no longer is the ability to be able to film and edit being a barrier to poorer people from being involved in this industry. So it's just about developing the creativity in your mind and creating the discipline. So one of the things that we've realized in St. Lucia is that what's missing in the development of our youth is sports and after-school programs. Not only in the area of sports, but also in the area of entertainment. And it's the competition as a young person that produces excellence. So Jamaica's athletic program is very, very successful because of the level of competition in Jamaica. So as a young person, if I'm 14 years old and I'm not running under 11 seconds in the 100 meters, I know I'm not going to make it.
Right.
Right? So I'm not going to be drinking. I'm going to be working out. I'm going to be doing everything my coach is telling me. And that's the other thing is they have great coaches. So we're about to start a major after-school program. In fact, one of the things I did just before coming here was we've hired a guy called Don Lockerbie, who was the person that did all of the cricket pitches for World Cup cricket. And he has part of a huge company. They just did the Atlanta Falcons Stadium in Atlanta. They're now doing the new Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas. So major company, and what they're doing is looking at all the playing facilities in Saint Lucia, putting one plan together, and coming up with the designs. And so over the next couple of years, we can upgrade all the facilities, and now focus on developing clubs. So clubs are in our mind the key to success.
Right.
And so it's teaching people again how to be chairmans and secretaries and treasurers of the clubs, because it takes all these people volunteering to be able to make this thing work. And so now you can have primary school level kids playing, secondary school level playing, girls and boys. And we're saying let's focus on the sports that there is scholarship opportunities. So the number one sport in Saint Lucia is football.
Right.
By far.
It is. So, just going back to the fact that you brought up the entertainment industry and music in particular. So we know right now St. Lucia is on the map with what you call Kuduro, or the Dennery segment. Do you think that the artists are getting enough attention or help from the government to get to where they need to be?
No. But it's something that we're going to continue to work on by putting in the recording studio. Now all of a sudden they have a better place to be able to go and record their music.
Right.
The ability for them to film their own videos, and then to be able to have assistance in developing the production of what they're doing. So, we're very anxious to get that facility off the ground as quickly as possible. We did help them in terms of when they wanted to go to some of their shows. But to me, that's to be expected. If you've got a great band and we can help them with their airfares, help them get their visas, give them some pocket money so when they're up here, that's the minimum the government should be doing.
Right.
But I'd like to think that we're going to be doing substantially more, and I want us to know that we're developing the arts throughout Saint Lucia. So I think one of the most important things, and we're not doing it, is learning how to read music and write music. If you really want to have an incredibly successful career, it's not about just being talented. There are a lot of
Right.
talented people out there.
True.
So it's about learning how to be able to, the whole business of the music industry. And I'm lamenting the fact that we've not developed an incubator. And that's what we want to be able to do. So the initial person that you sign up with, and to help you develop as an artist, so that by the time you are ready to sign with an artist, a bigger label, that you've already gotten confidence about yourself, you've learned about the business, you're not signing a contract blindly. So, Dennery segment is phenomenal. They're getting a tremendous amount of international coverage. And we're going to do everything we can to continue to see that grows. But we're certainly not doing nearly enough yet.
Okay, and with the implementation of that studio, would it be at the expense of the artists, or is that all covered by the government? They just come to use it?
No, well, we put in the physical capital investment to get it up and running,
Okay.
but clearly I think that it has to be time that people have to pay, right? So I mean, it goes without saying. But the fact is, I'm hoping that whoever's running the studio will find a fair way of being able to charge. So whether it's a percentage of sales, or whatever mechanism they come up with. But I always believe that nothing should be for free, because nobody should ever think of time as being for free or anything for free and take it for granted. There is a cost of running a studio,
Right.
and so while we are willing to make this substantial capital investment, but I think that people should be in the habit of paying some money and valuing their time. I mean, if it's for free, people can go in there and spend as much time as they want to in there and produce nothing. All of a sudden, when you know that you have to make an investment, then you're going to make it right. And you're going to focus harder on that.
So as it pertains to development, so one of the things that is often spoke about is the fact that since you became the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, you have spent more time outside of the country as opposed to actually taking or assuming your active role. Do you say that the times that you ventured out has been a profitable thing for the country?
Well, I think there's two things. First of all, it's ridiculous to say that I've spent more time outside than inside. um, certainly in the last 2 months, I have spent a lot of time on the road. And while some of the things had been pre-planned, so for instance, my trip annually to the World Bank and UN meetings are always pre-scheduled. And I had scheduled a meeting with the Canadian banks, and I'd also scheduled a state visit to Mexico. But when we had the hurricanes, all of a sudden I recognized there was an opportunity, and that given the level of the catastrophe, that everybody's attention was on the Caribbean.
Right.
And so there have been things that we've been trying to lobby for, to advocate, to change, to facilitate the economic growth of our region and our individual countries. And so all of a sudden I said, look, I need to take advantage of this opportunity now while this is not about, I can wait till next year,
Right.
because this is like a news cycle.
Right.
Right? So you even saw it on TV. One event overcame the other event, overcame the other event, overcame the other event very, very quickly. So we added a trip to go and meet with the Prime Minister of Canada. We added a trip to go and meet with different development agencies. I went to Paris to meet the OECD because they're the ones responsible for rating our countries. So right now they rate our countries on what we call per capita GDP. So you take the total GDP and you divide it by the population, and they use that one criteria to determine your status.
Okay.
And because of our status being a middle income country, we don't have access to concessionary funds. So we went to lobby to get them to change that.
Okay.
And we were successful in getting that done. And it's the extent of the calamity and being able to explain it with real experience now behind us that we were able to make that change. We had a great meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau and with some of his cabinet members. We had a fantastic meeting with the President of Mexico. So there used to be a program called the Three Borders, Mexico, Canada, and CARICOM. And we used to benefit where, way before your time, where American citizens could travel to Mexico, to CARICOM, or to Canada without a passport.
Okay.
And it was huge because in those days only 6% of Americans had passports. So it meant that we had access to 100% of the American market, and the rest of the world only had access to 6%. And what happened after 9/11, the US government changed that policy. And so for a long time we've been arguing with the US that the principle of why they gave us that benefit in the first place still exists, in that we can help you secure your border. So we were able to successfully get Canada, Mexico to now meet with CARICOM, because there was a trade negotiation between Canada, Mexico, and the United States called NAFTA.
Right.
And so when NAFTA came into place, CARICOM kind of got left behind. And so it was to really re-engage those partners. And so we were successful at that. We had the issue with the de-risking and the correspondent banking. And again, a lot of solutions don't understand what that means. So basically, what it meant that the Bank of America, as an example, processes all credit card transactions from the Caribbean,
Okay.
right? So if you are in Saint Lucia and you go online to book JetBlue, as an example, the processes would have gone through the Bank of America. So that's what we call a corresponding relationship with the banks that facilitated that. So the U.S. government changed its policies, and it said we're no longer going to fine banks based on the size of the infraction. Meaning, if somebody broke the rule and it was $1,000, the fine was related to the $1,000. They said we're now going to fine you based on the size of the bank. So even if the infraction was less than $1,000, Bank of America is $1 billion company.
Right.
They would fine them millions of dollars for the infraction. So the Bank of America, along with other banks, decided they were no longer going to offer the corresponding banking relationship to the banks in the Caribbean. So it means that you couldn't transmit money on Western Union to your family. You couldn't buy an airline ticket. Tourists coming down could not go and use their credit cards to go and buy duty-free shops, go to duty-free shopping. So this was a disaster. So again, this was something that we were working collectively on to be able to make happen. So I just want to say to you that to deal with this issue, corresponding banking and de-risking, the new relationship or the old relationship that used to exist, and trying to bring that back to open up new market opportunities, and then this issue of climate change. So with climate change, we've been promised that there's going to be money. No money has been made out of being available, and even when there's money, how do we draw down on that money? It's complicated, and then the IMF wants to consider any new borrowings that we make for resilience. They want to consider that as normal debt. So we have gone to the COP meeting. There was a special meeting today and yesterday here with the UN, which was put on by the Secretary General Guterres with CARICOM. There was a meeting in Jamaica with the IMF. So there's been a lot of intense meetings in a very short period of time to be able to try to resolve these issues. So I wear a couple of hats. First of all, I am the lead prime minister in CARICOM to deal with sustainable development.
Okay.
Secondly, I am now currently the chairman of the OECS, right? So I had even a bigger responsibility to be in those meetings and attending those meetings.
Okay.
But I think that they have been incredibly beneficial. I think that we've been able to highlight to a lot of people in the world as to what our difficulty is and what we're facing. And I'm hoping that some policy changes will be coming up that will give us the latitude and the ability to be able to solve some of our problems by ourselves. So that's the difficult. That's what we're working on.
Okay. So, which takes me to my next question, which seems to cause a lot of confusion, chaos, especially in the south of the island, Viewfort, the Caribbean.
Jules? and
Right.
not St. Jude?
Pearl of the Caribbean.
Pearl of the Caribbean.
Right. So people seem to be of the notion that they will have an influx of Chinese, Taiwanese, how you want to call them, coming in and setting shop, taking jobs, probably leaving and having to eventually push St. Lucians and Viewfortians per se out of Viewfort in order to accommodate the Pearl of the Caribbean. Do you think that your administration has done enough to educate the people, especially the average Joe, on the development that you intend to bring to the South?
You never do enough. But I think that now that time is passing by, people are starting to differentiate between what is fact and what's fiction.
Okay.
So first of all, Mr. Tia King is not Chinese, he's Malaysian. and he's a billionaire in his own right and has done some incredibly successful programs. And while he is personally going to be investing in the horse racing track and a hotel and also some commercial space, he's actually helping us put together a master plan for Viewfort. You know, I'm convinced one of the reasons why Viewfort has not become the new frontier is because there is no one plan.
Okay.
And I think it's too small of a space and it's too underdeveloped to try to get a person come in one investment at a time.
Right.
You need to be able to bring a concentration of investments at the same time to create what we call the critical mass to make it work. We have the horse racing track. We have 1 million square feet of office space to deal with this headquarters act that we've put in.
Okay.
And there's also an apartment hotel that's going in that same area, Beau Saint Jude. Then you have by Il Pirata, we have a new cruise ship facility that's going in. So Castries cannot take the Genesis boats, the big 66,500 size boats, you know, by Royal
Right.
Caribbean, the Oasis. We can't take that into Castries. So the goal is to build the facilities for that kind of ship to come into Viewfort, as well as home porting will come into Viewfort. We're also building what we call a hotel park. So I don't know if you've ever been to South Beach,
I am from Beaufort.
but you've ever been to South Beach in Miami?
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah. So basically, it's what that I call that a hotel park. So basically, the theme there is Art Deco, and everything's close to each other, and restaurants and bars and hotels and small apartments, and people all living in a mixed-use
Right,
development.
right.
That's what we want to be able to do at the Il Pirata site.
Okay.
And then we're also building a marina. So all these things are about creating opportunities and creating jobs. And so it's for solutions to be able to have an opportunity to own their own shop, to own their own small hotel, or to work. The horse racing track. We're talking about 400 permanent horses living in Vieux Fort, and each horse needs 2 to 3 people to take care of it. Then you have every weekend you're going to have a horse race that's taking place. Well, there's a huge industry that, again, people don't see, which is the TV production. So you were filming that every week. So you need people who are doing sound and editing and the cameramen. All those are going to be solutions. So there is going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity for people in the South. And I think that when I made this statement, who wants to live in a ghetto? I haven't found the person that says, you know what, given a choice of where I'd like to live in my life, that I want to live in a ghetto. So when I go to Bruceville, do you think people are really happy? I think people are happy to be alive. And I think everybody wants more for themselves. But the fact is, I want people to be able to afford their own house. So I want them to have a job in which they can go to the bank and mortgage and build their own house. I want people to afford a car. And the way that you do that is by creating the opportunity for economic activity. So Vieux Fort is not only killing Vieux Fort. Vieux Fort's killing Labrie, it's killing Choiseul, it's killing the Tumikus. So I have people living in my constituency, a young person, and they have to leave and go up north to get a job. And so they either have to commute every day, which costs them money, or they have to go and live up there and pay rent. So what happens is that what I call the family network gets destroyed. So, back home, you see people living next to each other, and aunties over here and grannies over here, and my friend is over there. And so everybody shares. So if somebody doesn't have a job for 1 month, nobody goes starving because you're all part of a network. And so when you break that network and people are being forced to migrate to other parts of the island or spend unnecessary money just to get a job, it's not productive. So Vieux Fort needs to be the hub of an economic activity. And I don't understand how you have a place where you already have an international airport, you have a deep water harbor, you have all this flat land, you have this beautiful area, and it's dead. So when I hear people on one hand saying, boy, you're not creating enough jobs, then we're creating the investment because government doesn't have the money itself to create those jobs, and then people saying, oh, we don't want those jobs. So look, my government is extremely focused on what we have to do. We've said openly, Saint Lucia cannot even come close to reaching its full potential unless we develop the South. And that if we're going to bring back the family life in Saint Lucia, the people in the South cannot be prejudiced against the way that they are, that they're not given a choice, that they have to live somewhere else because they can't live at home. So they already have land in the South, they already have a home in the South, and many people have to abandon that because they can't even get a job. So I just want to say that I'm passionate about the DSH project. I certainly would not support anything that I thought would marginalize solutions, but I think that solutions, and the solutions I certainly meet in Bruceville, all over in the South, are ecstatic about it coming.
Okay. So I think there's 2 more questions and we're gonna close. One of the questions being St. Jude's Hospital and also the Owen King Hospital. So being that healthcare is very important to the people of the country, I believe that there is a controversy going on right now because there is word around that you will close down the hospital altogether. What do you think that this is the right thing to do for? I mean, not just for the people of the South, because the surrounding people are also going to be affected. And why did it take your administration this much time to come to the conclusion that this is the best thing to do?
So it's a lot of questions in one. So first of all, there is no truth to what is being said. Okay, so nobody at any time has ever said that we're going to demolish St. Jude's. Okay, or that we're not going to open St. Jude's. What has been said is that when we came in, we didn't understand what the plan was.
Okay.
So we brought in a construction company that does a lot of work for CDB, happens to be a Saint Lucian company that employs over 170 people. So here you have a Saint Lucian guy who has now become successful on the world platform. So we hired his company to give us an evaluation. The evaluation basically said that it would take another year and a half and another $100 million EC to fix up the hospital. And that there are aspects of the building that we would have to demolish. So there were rooms that it did not cater for the equipment going in. So the door was the width of the door was too narrow. Okay. So when you're taking people from one room to another room, the hallways need to be at least 10 feet wide. The hallways were 4 feet wide. So it means that you're going down and you have the bed and you're holding the drip on one side. Two people can't stand on either side of the bed while you're rolling it down. The ramp to go up to the operating room was almost 18 degrees. Okay, so one, very dangerous and a very long thing. And if somebody slipped, it would be very, very bad news. The other thing is that the hospital is spread all over the place. So even if you spent all that money, the operating cost of it as it was designed was a problem. So when we looked at that, we said, okay, what are our options? Right? And so the options we have are spend the $100 million more, take the extra year and a half to be able to fix it. Right. Alternatively, is there a different use for that existing building? And can we build a new hospital faster? And the new hospital is better. So when I come to the States and I go and see a hospital, everything is in one building. Okay, you get in there, the emergency is downstairs, and you have some beds, and then you have specialty rooms upstairs, and there's a big elevator that carries you up. That makes sense, you know, for me. I mean, one air conditioning system, everything is under one control. Then I went to Cayman, and I saw a new hospital that they built in 1 year. And that's exactly how it was designed. And I said, you know, if we're going to build something for Saint Lucia, let's make it world class.
Right.
Why are we going to spend all this money on fixing up a building that will never be world class?
True.
Okay. So the other part of that is that somebody has to be held accountable. I don't want to waste my administration's time to do that. So we've hired a forensic auditor and a law firm, and more than likely we'll put a little board together that'll be just focused on figuring out what went wrong. But in the meanwhile, very soon I will make an announcement to the country on what the solution for the South will be. Okay? But I was given the impossible task of having to make a decision, and do I rush and make a bad decision? Or given the scheme that the hospital is going to be in place for 30 years, waiting another 6 months. At this point, we've already waited 7 years. To rush to do what? For political expediency? I'd rather take the pressure.
Okay.
And I'd rather people beat me up. So Owen King now, you had a hospital, and when we were in opposition, we said it. The government had not made the necessary preparations to afford to move into the new hospital.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we've inherited. So what we've recognized in order to be able to solve the healthcare problem in Saint Lucia is to introduce a healthcare insurance. So if you look at our manifesto, we say that affordable quality healthcare.
Okay.
We never promised universal healthcare.
Right.
Okay, because I think that universal healthcare in Saint Lucia, you know what I call universal healthcare? I call it heaven. You know why?
Get everything for free?
No. Because when you go to the hospital, the doctors and nurses get to decide who survives. That's how universal health care works. Because they don't have enough resources. And it's a horrible position to put anybody in, where they have to look at somebody and say whether they're going to give that person the ICU bed, or they're going to give them the defibrillator, or whether they're going to get on the dialysis machine. So I don't say it jokingly. I don't envy the decision that those doctors and nurses have to make. But the fact is, that's what's happening every day. Somebody's playing God. You're either too old or you're too weak. So those are the criteria that are being used to make that determination. So if we can go now to a national health insurance program where every single St. Lucian is insured. So government will pay the insurance for the poor, will pay the insurance for the unemployed, and will pay the insurance for the pensioners who earn a pension below a certain amount because they don't have the ability of earning any more money. And so that means that everybody can go to the hospital and get service, and nobody has to feel guilty.
Right.
Okay? It also means I have the ability of bringing a company in to run the hospital, because this is a new hospital. This is air conditioning, this is all the electronics and everything else, which you're accustomed to here in America.
Right.
But this is a quantum leap from where we are at Victoria. And I can say to you, and again, it's not saying anything derogatory about the people working there, right? They're struggling to keep Victoria alive, far less now making the transition to a new hospital where every single thing is electronic. And when things are electronic, you need to have what's called preventive maintenance, meaning you need to spend the money up front, because when it goes bad, it goes bad. So you can't wait. Like mechanical, the guy goes in there and bangs a couple of things and he knows how to make it work, and you can wait for it to break down. But with electronics, you can't do that. So we know that the estimates are that it will increase the cost of healthcare between $40 to $60 million. So that's almost a 50 to 60% increase currently on what we're spending on healthcare. And frankly, we don't have that money.
Right.
So we are moving as quickly as possible to get some of the services up and running, the dialysis lab being one of them at the new Owen King Center. We are going to have a company that everybody who's employed there will be part of that company. And the purpose of that is, as we bring a new partner in, it's easier for that partner to transition versus them being civil servants. So look, we're moving as fast as we can. It's not as fast as I would like it to be. But unfortunately, given the financial constraints that we have, and I said it up front, I knew that was going to be the case. I knew that was what was preventing the government from moving into the hospital. But I'm committed to getting it resolved. I'm not asking for any excuses. I'm not asking anybody to judge us any less favorably or more favorably, but we will get it done. And we will make it a healthcare system that St. Lucians will be proud of, a healthcare system that St. Lucians can afford, and that will be fair to every single St. Lucian. So we think that when it comes to healthcare, education, and security, regardless of what income status you are in life, you should have the same availability of those services.
And my final question to you, so the darkest cloud that seems to be hanging over St. Lucia currently is the surge in crime. I think we're about 53 to 54, which is averaging like one per week. And correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think, there are a number of factors that we can see that can contribute to persons committing crime. It could be unemployment, it could be lack of education. Do you think that as a country on the whole, enough is being done to limit the amount of homicides in the country?
Well, remember how we started off the conversation? What I inherited.
True.
Okay? There was no Coast Guards. There was no forensic lab. Police stations were dilapidated. My wife has been doing an amazing job in raising monies. Water heaters, ping pong tables, what do you call them? TVs, lounge chairs, desks, tables, nothing. That's how we were treating our policemen. What would be the motivation? Right? Policemen were getting killed on the job and there's no insurance. That's what we inherited. So again, We've got the Coast Guard boats working. We've got the forensic lab working. So they're in what I call the justice and the judicial system. What are we doing? We're improving the quality of investigation, making sure that the forensic lab is working, because the most important thing is to have the evidence.
Right.
Once you have the evidence, now it goes to the DPP's office. So I have to make sure the DPP has enough lawyers, that they have enough equipment, and they have enough facilities. Then you have to have the courthouses. So right now, we don't even know where the courthouses are. You don't even know where you're supposed to be going to the court in Saint Lucia. Right? And when you do go to court, the jury and the judge and the people that are being convicted are literally, right on top of each other. It is really bad, the whole system. We have magistrates that don't have offices. The magistrate's office is in their car. Okay? So we're now, Barnard Hill, the big controversy with regards to the cultural center, we've decided we're going to put the court system at Barnard Hill. It's already fenced, it's close to town, and we believe that that becomes an ideal hall of justice for Saint Lucia. The next component to crime, and I think to some extent unemployment is a contributing factor, but I don't think it's the factor. I think it's values. I mean, think of it, what a young person can walk up to another human being, put a gun to their head, and shoot them. What's it say to you about that person's conscience and about that own person's values in terms of the value they have to life? These things didn't happen before. And when you hear the reasons why they're doing it, turf, ego, initiation, right? And it's tremendously gang related. And a lot of the crime that we have in Saint Lucia right now is gang related. So we think that there isn't a short-term solution to this problem. We think it's two things. It's the justice and judicial system. We also think, the justice and security system, and we also think it's social. So getting these after-school programs going, so I talked about Mr. Lockerbie coming in to fix up the facilities, getting clubs going, getting it where they're competitive, so that kids all of a sudden start realizing, if I want to succeed in football or in basketball or in track, I got to give up the drugs, I got to put my time in, and sports teach you values. The value of teamwork, the value of how to lose and win, the value of discipline, right? And all it does is now reunites families, so that families are now coming to the games on the Friday night and the Saturday night and the Sunday, and that the parents are now putting time in with the kids. So we want to change those things. We got to bring back those core values. And the big part of it, if you take a name for all of those things, we call it nation building. We have to build back what it is to be Saint Lucian, right? So I am as much to blame as what I'm going to say. How many of us have gone through neighborhoods or been to homes where it's a single mother who can't afford one child but happens to have 3 or 4 children? Okay? What do we think that's going to happen with those kids growing up? Without a proper home, they may be loved, but they're certainly not going to get the right guidance, because the mother more often is out trying to earn money, and who's taking care of the kids? And the kids grow up with an attitude that society doesn't care. And so then I'm in a household as a young boy. I see my mother struggling. I see my granny, who is probably 40 years old, struggling. I see my grandmother, who is probably 60, also struggling. And I'm saying to myself, wow, society doesn't care. So why do I care?
Right.
But we pass by and allow that to happen. And so when we're not volunteering our time to be coaches, when we're not volunteering our time to be advisors and mentors to the younger people, and if we don't make the youth our priority, then we're doomed. So unfortunately, I can't do every single thing at once.
Right.
So the first thing I have to do is to make sure that the engine keeps going. So my focus has been resolving the debt problem, getting some institutional stuff done, right? And now starting to build the facilities to be able to create these soft things, the after-school programs, fixing up the hospitals, fixing up the schools, fixing up the police stations, All those things will start happening. And I think eventually we'll resolve the problem. But I can't promise St. Lucians that I can fix that problem overnight. And I certainly can tell all St. Lucians I can't do it alone.
Right.
Every single St. Lucian needs to take up this is a cry for help. Do something.
True.
Find a family that needs help. Embrace them.
Right.
That kid that you see sitting on the block, spend a half an hour, 45 minutes, and become a big brother, become a father.
Right.
Embrace that child. Try your best to give them some guidance. And whereas they be maybe hate, but the hate should never translate into taking a life. And so when you hear about boyfriends beating up girlfriends or killing them, how does the policeman stop that? People in the community need to see that and need to step in.
Right.
Gang-related revenge stuff, the police can listen on the air, we can get tips, but for the most part, when people have made a mind in their mind that they're going to go and get revenge on somebody,
True.
it's very, very difficult, which is very different from people breaking into houses and doing other sorts of crimes. So I have to say to you, it pains me when I hear of another young person getting killed. And it is obviously a tremendous loss to the family members, because I go and meet some of the mothers and meet some of the sisters and meet some of the brothers. But it's also a huge loss to the country, because who would have known what contribution that person could have made,
True.
right? So don't think for a moment that we don't sit here and we are as in pain, maybe not nearly, because it could never, a parent losing a child, I have 2 children of my own. I don't even want to imagine what that is like. Okay? And you see people having to go through that, but equally the state is pained by the loss of a talent, of somebody that could have made a contribution, and you just never know who that person was going to be.
Okay. And for our viewers listening, and anybody who may come across this video, being that we're approaching the Christmas season, for persons who may want to choose Saint Lucia as a destination choice to vacation or to just spend time, how would you go about reassuring them that it's a safe place to come out to spend time with their family?
Saint Lucia is extremely safe. Unfortunately, the problem of crime that we have has been very much restricted to us as Saint Lucians, and it's very, very sad. But it has not happened in the areas of tourism. I mean, people are still very respectful to tourists in Saint Lucia. We've not seen any danger in that regard. But it's something that we don't want to continue to see happening. But Saint Lucia is having one of its most successful years ever. Our tourism arrivals are up 10%. Our cruise ship business is up almost 14%. So Saint Lucia is doing extremely well. We have a new campaign that we've launching called Let Her Inspire You. And so the idea is to highlight all the people who've been inspired by Saint Lucia. Oprah Winfrey, Derek Walcott, Nina Compton, Charlamagne Rock, Johnny Badass, are all people who keep coming back to Saint Lucia because they feel so inspired by Saint Lucia. And we think that Saint Lucia is a very inspiring place. We're very excited about our village tourism. We're excited about, some new hotels that are opening up in Saint Lucia. We're excited about the announcements of the Ritz and the Fairmont and the expansion of Sandals and Hyatt and Hilton all coming into Saint Lucia. New golf courses, new marinas. So look, it's an exciting time for Saint Lucia. And I'm looking forward to welcoming many, many more people to the shores. And we're also going to be working on the airlift. We're meeting with JetBlue, meeting with American, meeting with Delta. We have these additional United flights. We're trying to get Southwest to come to Saint Lucia. So I think that there's some exciting times ahead, and I think Saint Lucians should be holding their head high. And I just want to thank you all for what you all are doing here and getting the message out. And no better place than Brooklyn.
So on behalf of myself, the Watch Radio family, the people of St. Lucia, our viewers, I would like to thank you for coming through for I know it was tight for you to be able to fit us into your schedule with one day and a lot going on. So we really appreciate you coming to sit and have this open discourse. We look forward to welcoming you again some other time, of course. I wish you much success as you continue along the lines of being the Prime Minister. I'm going to keep up with what you're doing to ensure that progress is seen, And again, so thank you very much for coming through. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very, very much. I can't wait to be back.
Thank you. It was a
And,
pleasure
and Merry
having
Christmas. I'll make sure I'll send you up some sorrel.
you. I look forward to receiving that.
And
sorrow.
one of the things we didn't get to talk about is all the new festivals. We just announced the new lineup for the Jazz Festival,
Okay.
which is going to be purely jazz. And I'm very excited about Carnival for next year. Creole Heritage went through some transitions, is going to continue the transition. Food and Rum Festival is coming back. So the Reggae and Soul Festival.
Okay.
So we saw a tremendous amount of success with Soleil. And I think this year is going to be even better.
Okay. One final question. As it pertains to independence, have y'all set anything in motion for the coming year, February 22nd? Have y'all started to put anything in place?
We have the Prime Minister's Ball, in which we use as a major fundraiser. And we're going to be doing some very, very exciting things. And, the events committee will now be more involved with independence. So what we want to do is to make sure every major event that we do is of international standard. And that's no different for Independence and Saint Lucia Day. So, we got to raise the level.
Right.
And feel the love.
True. So again,
Once we can advertise your wife's charitable thing that she's going to be doing on December 16th.
Yep, December 16th, we're doing another fundraiser. It's called the Police Ball. She did it last year. We raised over $100,000. So they're going to be showing videos of what the money went to.
okay.
And obviously trying to raise more money for the policemen and the firemen. And then in February, we then do the Prime Minister's Ball, in which last year we raised, I think it was $70,000 for the girls program.
Okay.
And we've got 2 different charities this year that we're going to be raising funds for. But look, hopefully people come home. That's the most important part.
They will. So again, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. We are indebted to you, of course, for making this possible, for being able to educate our viewers in some of the current problems that the Saint Lucian public is facing. So again, indeed, we are very honored to have you here. And like I said, I look forward to the next time for bigger and better things. I would assume or hope that when you come back, it would be with all great news as to the progress of Saint Lucia.
Well, we're committing to building a new Saint Lucia. We're going to have our budget early this year. So budget's going to be in February. Stay tuned, because I think you're going to hear some really exciting things. We're certainly very excited. And it's great to see the results yesterday of the reduction in unemployment and the growth numbers that we're seeing, the confidence the business people are having back home in Saint Lucia. And so we're seeing some very early success to our policies. And I can say to Saint Lucians that we have even better days coming up ahead. And I hate using that word because the other people didn't deliver on the better days and they give them bitter days. But we're certainly going to make sure we add some sugar to make sure they are definitely better and not bitter.
Okay, sure. So,
Okay?
all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just close out to our listeners.
So I want to apologize to our viewers. I know we did say that we were going to have an opportunity to take any questions that y'all may have had, but due to the fact that we have exhausted our time here and that the Prime Minister has to leave, I would like to say we are sorry and we're not able to take your questions. Perhaps at another time and date we are able to take those questions. So thank you very much again. It was a pleasure.
And you were great.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
What you can take us out of the Prime Minister's way to our viewers on your show.
All right, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you so much for coming to Watch Radio family. We'll meet you again. And I always say, thank you for my business license for Love FM. Yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this. Let me play this song for me. So when you step out, then I'll ask you certain things.
Not a problem. Thank you very much. Lucians, I'll see you all soon.
Yeah, once again, we want to thank our listening audience, our viewers from home, from abroad, from internationally, wherever you are. On behalf of WRN NYC, New York, we're closing out our segment for this evening.
I'm a born Lucian, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Look how we having fun tonight, and everything is just right. We are the healing of the West. That's why we're different from the rest. I love to be a Lucian, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Fond memories never fade. This country means so much to me. Everywhere I go, I take a piece with me. She's the healing of the West. Her loving people are the best. I love to be illusion. I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm a born Lucian, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Look how we having fun tonight, and everything is just right. We are the healing of the West. That's why we're different from the rest. I love to be a Lucian, and I'm proud of where I'm from. No matter where I may roam, this land will always be my home. Such a lovely place, it can never be replaced. My love for her will never fade. I'm a born Lucian, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Look how we having fun tonight, and everything is just right. We are the healing of the West. That's why we're different from the rest. I love to be a Lucian, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Fond memories never fade. This country means so much to me. Everywhere I go, I take a piece with me. She's the healing of the West. Her loving people are the best. I love to be illusion. I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm a born Lucian, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Look how we having fun tonight, and everything is just right. We are the healing of the West. That's why we're different from the rest. I love to be a Lucian, and I'm proud of where I'm from. can never be replaced. My love for her will never fade. For you and me, a price was paid. I will always pray and love her until my dying day. I'm a born Lucia.
Yeah, once again, I want to thank everybody for logging on. Watch Radio. Don't forget tomorrow night, Digital Bashment. And we have our special guest tomorrow night. DJ Sean is going to be on the inside. He's going to have another sit down with me, Digital Bashment. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank you guys for logging on. Thank you guys for sharing the page. It was a wonderful evening. Again, thank the PM for passing through. Watch Radio NYC. We out of here. Have a wonderful night, guys.